Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Get My Life Tour. It is me, your host, Lydia T. Blanco. And as always, I am so excited that you decided to show up for yourself and take center stage in your life. Thank you for being here on the Get My Life Tour. If this is your first time tuning in, come on in. Welcome. I am so elated to introduce you to this space. Here we practice vulnerability, showing up for ourselves, and being who it is that we need for ourselves first and others. We're growing in community here, and we learn so much on each stop of the tour as guests and myself take center stage. And we show up to listen, to learn, to love, and all of the great things that life has for us. If this is not your first time tuning in because you've been on tour since day one, circa July 2019, or whenever you decided to start tuning into the Get My Life Tour. Welcome back. Welcome. Okay. I know. Look, you probably like, Lydia, where have you been? I've been a number of places. As you can see, I am here in Harlem, different setup because the winter, even though it has like a month to like really officially pull up. It's here in New York. It's freezing. High is 35. I can't even sit in my second space where I record my podcast because the pipes, my pre-war building, Harlem pipes are piping, okay? Piping hot, making a lot of noise. And so I switched up the space, but I'm so hyped to be back because it has been some time. If you are familiar, you'll probably notice like, oh, dang, the Get My Life Tour was a weekly show at one point, airing every Monday. Then it went to bi-weekly. And now my cadence has changed yet again because life. And so I am certain to drop an episode once a month. And I hope that that cadence change as I pray for and build my team. And so I'm hyped to be back. Okay. I'm like, it is November. How did we get here? I mean, thank the Most High, we've woken up every day and we've got to this point, right? But I cannot believe it is truly the middle of November and the end of 2022. The last 2 years have been a blur. Like, I mean, like, strange, right? At one point in life, we were using unprecedented, uncertain, all the last 2 years definitely have been a year of surrender. And as I talk about surrender, it brings me to my topic of discussion today. And that is letting go. A question that came to mind for me is, how much more can you take? I woke up this morning, y'all, and I was just like taking some time off of work to just like relax and not do anything other than the essentials. And I was literally standing in the mirror, headscarf on, robe on, just talking to myself, speaking to the Most High, having a conversation with myself. And I was like, how much more can you take? And I was like, well, what does that question really apply to? And I was like, oh, okay. And you know how things start to work, and it's like everything, right? And so that's what I want to present today on this stop of the tour. And I want to ask you, as I ask myself and have this conversation, right? Is, how much more can you take? Personally, I don't know how much more I got, boss. Okay. I really don't know how much more I can take when it comes to a lot of things. And so, as I talk about surrender, I'm also speaking about letting go. I've been in a very evaluative stage lately. I'm taking inventory of a lot of things. And I don't necessarily attribute it to the year coming to an end, but I think a cycle in this personal year, this personal season of mine is coming to an end. And it's both exciting and a little like, ooh, clutching the pearls, okay? A little nerve-wracking at times, but then I'm reminded, oh, hello, excited. I'm reminded that that's what change feels like. That's what letting go feels like. You know, I remember being extremely poetic and I wrote something years ago. It had to be over 10 years ago. Um, and it was about tug of war, right? And the idea of letting go. And it's like it shouldn't take for your hands to start burning in order for you to let go. And then I was just like, okay. So I had this thought years ago. It came back to me this morning. I'm asking myself how the world is asking me, the universe is asking me, most high is asking me, how much more can you take? And I'm just like, yo, it's really time to let go, to make some choices, to stop doing some things and to continue to move forward. Okay, so before I go too deep into my thoughts, and let's put a bookmark there. I'll just give you some updates, okay? Because it has been a while. A month is a very long time to not speak with you all. And so I literally have been getting my life. I have been pushing myself because I've had some moments where I've just been so exhausted. I have been questioning the experiences that I've prayed for, and that has really checked me. So about a year ago, I wrote some things down on what it was that I wanted to experience in life, in love, in my work relationships, and my positioning. And I realized a year later that a lot of those things came to fruition. Now we're still working on the hashtag where he at though. But in all seriousness, it takes, and I've said this before, it takes a certain level of spiritual maturity to be present, but also to be hmm, receptive of or to, whatever the proper preposition is, I'm just flowing right now, um, what it is that you have prayed for, right? And so I'm saying this because not only is it an update for you all, but it's a reminder for myself. And I hope that it serves as a reminder for you as well, that sometimes we're so quick to let go what it is that we've asked for because it scares us, because it may not be packaged exactly the way we want it to look. And it takes a certain level of grit and ambition and discipline and a number of other things, of course, faith, to really battle through. And I think that's more of an internal thing, right? And come to peace and claim the victory over experiencing what it is that you say you want, even when it doesn't always look or feel like it. And so that's where I have been. Okay. I have had some extremely generous offers presented to me, and I'm like, not why me, but right now? Or is that really what this looks and feels like? And I've had to check myself. I've had to mature in ways that I haven't even been able or willing to communicate in certain spaces because it's just like, okay, you know, new levels, new challenges, and it's real. So that is where I have been. Okay. And I'm at a point now where I'm like, okay, I've won the battle in that way. And now in order to maintain some of the things that I have been able to achieve, or experience, I have to let go and truly surrender some things that no longer serve me. Okay. So this is where we kind of pick up the bookmark, right? And get back to that conversation about surrender. And I'm at a point where I'm really ready to let go of every, I wish I had some cool motion graphics here. Every, okay? Enunciate thing that does not serve me, every limiting belief. Y'all, I didn't realize it, but I struggle with a lot of limiting beliefs. And I think it has a lot to do with my background, ways that I've pushed through places. And as much as I've been able to excuse me, and then the amount of things that have kind of like not been for me that I felt like were slipping through my fingers because I wasn't able to grasp them, right? Because they weren't meant for me. And so I've really struggled with limiting beliefs. Like for so long, I thought that I could only live in one space. I have been in my same apartment in Harlem for the last 7 years, nearly 8. And this has been my blessing. It really has been during some challenging times, moments of isolation, great community, just the ebbs and flows of life. I've been here, okay? These pictures that you see, with the exception of some of the Polaroids that are stuck within the frame, have been here since I moved in, okay? I mean, I dust. Thank God for good quality photos. I was the photographer for all these images, but I feel like I could only be here. I was like, well, this is my rent. I know this, I know that, running down a list. And so I stayed. And so I'm just gonna say it here because the goal is to be transparent and take you on tour with me. I have literally been wrestling to give up this space. And not because I don't want to leave, but searching for a new place to call home has been quite the experience. I am learning about what it is that I want, what I don't want, square footage, newness, where I can, be a little bit more flexible, where I'm not going to be uh, where I'm not going to be negotiable. Um, and so I'm learning so much about myself as I let go of this limiting belief that this blessing is the only blessing as it relates to home that the Most High has for me. I probably shared this here. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But about a year ago, year and a half ago, I was walking down my stairs and I was paying attention to like some of the dirt and the buildup and I was just like, why am I so upset about this? And I was like, because I live here and I take pride in where I live and community. But the real reason was because of what I heard that pushed me to think differently about the space that I'm occupying. And it was this word that I was pouring new wine into old wineskins, right? I've had the opportunity to earn differently, to be in a different industry and still do what I love. And so I'm experiencing newness. At that point, I was experiencing newness for the first time in a long time. And since then, I have continued to experience abundance. But this limiting belief that I had to be here so that I could do this a certain way and that a certain way has literally cost me much, so much. It may not be my base rent, right? But literally the experiences that I've had, the proximity to certain people, my family, acquaintances, some friends. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like familiarity, maybe one of the things, oh, I don't even want to say it, but I got to say it. Familiarity may be one of the things that you have to let go and surrender in the season. And I'm learning that for myself. I'm like, yo, I went somewhere to look at apartments yesterday and I was like, yo, this is crazy. This feels like a third world country. And I shouldn't say that, but I felt like I was abroad. Let me say it that way. I may have edited that out, but I may not edit it out. It is what it is. Okay. It just felt so foreign to me. Let me say it that way. And I was like, wow. Okay. So I know I don't want to live here, but I also was like, okay, well, what is it? My neighborhood, my block, there are only 3 buildings situated on my block. I went into this neighborhood and there were 20 buildings that I counted situated on the block across from the street from one another. And I was like, this is overwhelming. I value community and getting to know people, but how am I going to get to know all these people? And I was like, well, do I need to get to know all these people? What is it really? And I was like, well, I think the numbers are overwhelming me. Okay. Then I'm like, well, what if there's a crisis? How many people going to be on the street? And am I going to be able to move? And I'm like, girl, but what I'm realizing is the familiarity that I have to surrender. You know, when you want to experience newness, you got to be able, you have to be willing. Okay. Like, you have to be willing to experience newness. And what I'm realizing now is that oftentimes we forfeit the experience of newness because we're not willing to surrender what we are familiar with. We have that an example of people not wanting to leave their hometown, you know, or go to this school or try that job or be in this relationship or travel, get on a plane, walk, I don't know, get on a bike, right? And it's like, wow, you will really never have the experience. And I don't want to look back on my life and realize because I wasn't willing to surrender, I didn't live in fullness. I didn't live to my full potential. I didn't live to experience what has been written for me. That is scary. And so all of this is rooted in the idea of me thinking that I have to stay in one place, but it also is rooted in home and all these other ideas, right? But I hope that speaks to you. I really do, because it's so hard sometimes to uproot yourself. But one of the things I learned this morning, because I was on a roll this morning, y'all, I potted my plants, I said my affirmations, I read, you know, I did everything but write. And I realized that when I was repotting my plants, I was like, yo, if you don't hurry up and tend to this plant and repot it, change the soil, do what you need to do, it's going to die. And I was like, well, Lydia, it's time for you to uproot yourself and find a new pot and change your soil, because the way you feeling, baby, you know, life lessons. Yo, plants teach me so much about myself and life. Um, and so does home and letting go, quite honestly. So yes, limiting beliefs and honestly, everything that doesn't serve me. And that includes relationships. Yep. The R word. It's crazy. You know, I have been in this season where I've fallen back. You know, I've repositioned myself from reaching out and calling and doing a number of things, the ways in which I'm used to doing them, because I am a shower upper. If that's even a word, we're gonna make it one. And I realized that that's not well received. And that's not what some people need. And that may be what I feel like I need to do in order to communicate and express and show my love and care for someone. But that's not often what people need. And that has been a hard lesson for me because I live by myself. I'm on the East Coast and I have some people, but I'm still finding some of my people. And I love being there for others. And what I've been reminded of is something that I learned in a relationship with an older woman earlier on, I want to say mid 20s for me. And this was a woman who I loved, admired, respected. I still have respect for her, but like just the the admiration and respect was just like at an all-time high. And I'll say early 20s, actually, early 20s. I wasn't even mid 20s at this point. I hadn't hit my quarter life crisis. But mid 20s, I remember not needing her a certain way and that being offensive to her. And it was like it changed the dynamic of our relationship. And it wasn't because I thought I had to be independent, I'm self sufficient, all these things. I literally was just doing what I needed to do. And there was a lot going on in my life at that point. And so I didn't really feel like I could reach out to a lot of people, regardless of our relationship dynamic. And I noticed that when I wasn't reaching out in some of the ways in which others were who were in, our world that offended them. And it really shifted the dynamic of our relationship. And so I promised myself that I would not treat people poorly or mistreat them if they did not need me. And I promised myself that. I think I had to be like 23 years old, 23, 24, maybe 24. It was between that 22 and 23, 24 stage. And I'm relearning that because I'm at a point where my friends are getting married and having babies and in serious relationships and living in other spaces and doing their own thing. And there's this perception of me like, oh, you're a go-getter. You got this going for yourself. We never know where you're at. And I'm like, hey, if you love me, say something, okay? Don't make me start singing. But no, seriously, like I am learning through a number of things to not be offended by people who don't need me. And I don't think it necessarily equates to a lack of love. But I am learning for myself, right? To not be offended by that because you can't make assumptions in life, right? And not everybody loves the same. Not everybody cares the same. People's priorities shift. You get in a relationship, that show everything. You ain't got time for nothing else. You have a child, that's your focus. You're moving and it's like, woo wee, right? And so I'm saying this because it may not be the friendship or the relationship in its entirety that you have to let go, but there are certain dynamics that are no longer going to exist the same or serve the same purpose. That's it. That's it. Sometimes we automatically shift to, I got to cut this person off. And it's like, hold on, wait a second. We can grow, we can mature, we can experience life. Life can ebb and flow. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't always have to be a matter of disconnect. But here's what I will say. It is extremely important to communicate when things are changing. And I know not everyone has the words, the skills, the bandwidth, whatever, but everybody got a lot of excuses. Okay. And I'm gonna include myself in that, everybody, because I'm not gonna speak generally and then exclude myself like I'm above reproach. No. And I've been checking myself on this as well. But we cannot rely on the internet, the memes, the snackable content that goes viral to justify how we show up individually and relationally. This rigid individuality is killing us. Okay. People dying lonely. You feel me? Have no support, no one praying for them, no one thinking of them. Like, y'all, it is real. There are stories where people are like, for however long, and no one knows because everyone has an excuse, because their life is going on, because they are so important, because they got a promotion, because they had to travel, because don't be the cause of someone else's demise or play a role in it because X, Y, or Z. You know what I'm saying? All puns intended. Don't be the cause. It's always a because. Be better. How about that? Be who you've needed. How about that? You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to not expect you from other people, and there's another thing to be who you've needed. And you don't have to be everything. I'm learning that. I can't be everything. I can't be everyone's savior. I can't be on the phone with everyone throughout the day. And I can't expect that from other people. But what I can do is be who I've needed in very essential points in others' lives and in my own life, right? And so, yes, dynamics are going to change, expectations are going to change. But if you can always be your own expectations, I think it'll make your relationships a bit different. Okay. And so I'm at a point where, like, if you don't hear from me, you know why. Okay. And that's okay. And it may not be anything personal, but you know why. It may become personal for you, but it just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I really, at times, really struggle with that saying, but such is life. Sometimes it is what it is. And it doesn't have to be a beef, it doesn't have to be hard feelings. Life goes on. And so I value long standing relationships that have stood the test of time and, you know, haven't always been like the easiest or the prettiest or whatever. I also am not here for the struggle or the trauma bonds, but life is real. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm saying all this to say that I'm learning in real time how to ebb and flow with dynamics changing and expectations changing, but I'm also challenging myself to be who I've needed to continue to be and become my own expectations, and learn how to reposition myself, right? I was having a conversation with someone and I was like, I feel like because I've said something twice, I'm dry begging. And, I think they thought I was joking. And I was like, no, I was really serious. Like, I really shouldn't have to ask that many times. And if I do, I should know for myself that I'm asking the wrong person. And it's nothing personal. It literally is a matter of a fact. Like, I may just be asking the wrong person. And beyond that instance, it's like, I legit have to become more sound in my own decisions and be firmly rooted in what is best for me so that I am not coming out with the shorter end of the stick. Because at the end of the day, no matter who's who, some people honestly do what's best for them with no regard to anyone else. And I understand different lived experiences and people needing to be more selfish or whatever the case may be, but that doesn't really serve everyone else. There's got to be a healthy balance. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I've said a lot. All right, so we touched on limiting beliefs, relationships, and now can we just talk a little bit about finances? Can I preface this by saying that I am not anyone's certified financial anything? But what I will say is it is time to think differently about your relationship with money. Y'all, I have been so tight. Oh, I've been tight. And it's because I've lived in very tight times. Very tight. I mean, negatives. I mean, if they could do a double negative on me, they would. But what I've learned, and I may have spoken about this nearly a year ago after paying off like an insane amount of credit card debt, because I was robbing Peter to pay Paul and I was struggling. When I say, y'all, I mean, I have looked like it, but it was, I lived through some very tumultuous financial times. And what I want to do is encourage you to do what you can to pay off your debt. There are so many different strategies, snowball, envelope method, all these things are like pay down your lowest debt, this, that, or the third. And some people will tell you, well, you ain't got to worry about it. So I don't know what you need to worry about. But if you are someone who is challenged financially, I really want you to think strategically about where it is that you want to be and think about where it is that you can cut from so that you can get to where it is that you want. My nails, fortunately, nowadays are done. But for the longest time, pandemic included, I probably can count the amount of times I got my hands done. And it was probably when I was on camera, but I cut back. I was like, you know what? I don't need to get my acrylic overlay. If I do, I ain't getting no design. And it's only because I'm going to go on camera. And I went out and I tried to invest as much as I could in different nail, you know, solutions. I had the stickies. I was making sure I kept my nails low, and I was painting them myself and just taking the extra time. I wasn't eating out. I was doing all these things to really cut corners so that I can cut down my debt. I was a little aggressive, and I would take every other check and literally throw it towards paying down my debt. And you're probably like, Lydia, why are you saying this to me? You know, a new year, a new season, a new cycle in life is among us. And I can't tell you how to invest. I'm learning myself. I literally had a friend date with one of the homies where we sat down and he was going over stocks and ETFs and all these different options in an app with me. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not there yet, but I want to be in this, that, and the third, right? And so I encourage you to have those kind of conversations as well. See who it is that you can reach out to, who you can trust with your financial situation so that you can really let go of some of the anxiety that comes with not having as much as you need, or would like to have, so that as you continue to move forward in this next season in life, you're positioned differently, even if it means that your account is just out of the negative. If you have enough money to go get a cup of coffee and that's the luxurious thing that you do, you know, micro habits like that can really change your relationship to money, your energy flow throughout your body as it relates to becoming anxious over your finances, and help with that surrender, right? Of letting go of the limiting beliefs around your finances. Yeah, I feel like I could go on and on, but there's so much more that I want to talk about here on the Get My Life tour. So I'm like, let me think of my mic drop moment. Mm, okay, I think I got it. Letting go doesn't always have to be about loss. It's about freeing up space so that you can receive what is for you. That's it. Letting go doesn't always have to be about loss. I know that letting go can be uncomfortable. It can change your position. It can change your life, in a number of ways, perceivably negative, depending on what you're used to, or for the better. But I think it's something that we really have to be willing to do. You know, surrendering creates room for more of this success, this succession, right, in life. And so I really hope that some of what I said has resonated with you. I really look forward to being here on the Get My Life tour with you more. Oh my gosh, it has been entirely too long. And I think the cadence is really going to have to change because I'm like, I got some big plans. And I always say that, but it's time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is time. The abundance is here. I'm living in it, and it shall flow in multiple directions, especially this one. Look, as always, I'm so grateful that you decided to tune in, listen with your heart, and show up here on the Get My Life tour. Be sure to visit the getmylifetour.com, follow the Get My Life tour on social platforms. And if you'd like to stay connected with me and just my life and how I live my life as my business, this, that, and the third, be sure to do so on all social platforms at Lydia T. Blanco. If you want to connect with me on Facebook, it is by Lydia T. Blanco. And if you'd like to take center stage here in the coming weeks, the new year, email me at joinme@thegetmylifetour.com. Look, there is so much more that is going to happen here, and just so much more in life that I cannot wait to share with you all. I'm like, yes. Yes, life is happening. I'm happening to life. Okay, let me get it straight. I'm happening to life. And so I look forward to this journey. I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts. What are you letting go of? What do you need support in letting go of? It may not be me, but it may be something that I can point you in the direction of. Either way it goes, talk to me. Look, it has been real, and I look forward to seeing you right here next time on the Get My Life Tour. All right, y'all. Peace.